Hey, welcome back to another exciting, mind-blowing. You have to sit down when you watch this episode of Mikey's Video Game Madness. Today we're covering the amazing Final Fantasy IX on the PlayStation 4. That's right. PlayStation 1 on the PlayStation 4? Who knew? Apparently me, because I downloaded it, played it, made a video of it. Anyway, this is probably an upscaled mobile port, so not everything's the same. It looks like the cutscenes are a little bit smoothed out a little bit, which is nice. I still own my original physical copy of Final Fantasy IX on the PlayStation 1. Gameplay and story-wise, this is probably my favorite of the PlayStation 1 Final Fantasies. Final Fantasy VII is very nostalgic to me. I like it a lot. I like a lot of the Final Fantasies a lot, but this is probably my favorite PlayStation 1 Final Fantasy. This goes back to probably the Final Fantasies before 7, because 7 and 8 kind of took on like a futuristic sci-fi theme. So as the last Final Fantasy for the PlayStation 1, they decided to go back to the roots of the old medieval fantasy type of world. I was gonna say genre, but I mean JRPG, and if you don't know what that means, Japanese role-playing game genre. I've had to make that clear. Back in the day, we just called all JRPGs RPGs. Most people didn't own PCs, so we were very limited on exposure to anything but JRPG. So anything that pretty much you walked around and you had like a little box that had text on it, you would call it an RPG. Like you level up your stats, oh, it's an RPG. RPG was a very, very, very open to interpretation term. So you play as Zidane. One cool feature of this, every time you get introduced to a main character, they tell you their stats. Always thought it was funny in Japanese games where they actually tell you their blood type sometimes. Doesn't look like it does it here. I know like Street Fighter games, and I think a lot of Capcom games in general tell you the blood type. I looked into that. Apparently, blood type has something to do with your personality a bit in Japanese culture. Zodiac signs are another thing I've noticed, like in Persona, but I guess that's more fitting for a Persona game, just for the fact that Persona deals a lot with the occult. Not that Zodiac signs are part of the occult, but like it fits in. The textures and everything are smoothed up, so this makes me think it's an upscaled mobile port. I don't want to say, I'm not sure if this came out on the PC. Like when this came out, most of my PC exposure came from other people's houses. Like I had a PC, but it was very, very weak, and my father did not believe in having games on the PC because he figured we would like mess something up on the computer. So the computer was off limits unless like I needed to do a report for school or something like that. So until I got my own computer, which probably wasn't until after I graduated high school, and then I started upgrading my computer and getting parts for it, and when I was working and stuff like that, I really didn't get to play PC games on my own. So most of my, all of my gaming, except for a few exceptions, were done on consoles. I did have a Commodore 64 when I was younger. It was a hand-me-down. It was like way after the fact that they're really being supported all that much. Like I believe I got a Commodore 64 around 1993. So it was pretty much had its day. On the plus side, I probably had access to every game on the system imaginable. My father was part of Commodore 64 computer club. Yeah, that's a thing. Those people were huge Dungeons and Dragons geeks. I know, Commodore 64 club, Dungeons and Dragons geeks who knew that those two went together so well. It was so weird that we'd like have a picnic. If I told this story before, I mean, you guys probably didn't watch every single one of the videos because I'm either at 800 or close to 800 videos. I don't even remember what the hell I talked about. So if you even remember the story, if I even told it, you'll hear something new, hopefully. But we had like a picnic of, we had a picnic at this computer club, and these guys were like pulling out all these weird swords and everything, and they like, it was kind of cool, especially, I was like super young. I was probably like 5 or 6. This is before I got my own Commodore 64, so this is even before like 93. Like I would see the little board games and everything. I knew nothing about it. Like my father didn't play Dungeons and Dragons, so I think it was a little bit after his time, maybe. I don't know. I think my dad was more into getting high and listening to records or Pink Floyd or whatever when that shit was popular. But like a lot of the guys were really into Dungeons & Dragons, and like some of the board games that they made, or like the maps and stuff they made, were so detailed and everything. I'm sure like those guys probably had incredible jobs doing very important things. It was amazing. Well, at least my memory of it was amazing, you know. Like when I remember the Never-Ending Story when I was a kid, and then I go and watch it as an adult, and the effects don't hold up nearly as well as what I remembered as a kid. Like when I was a kid, they were like the most realistic effects ever. If you're wondering what that sound is, my dog Gwen is drinking water in the kitchen. She just does it really loud. Bless her heart. Love her to death. So we're introduced to Vivi here, which is probably, besides Lightning, one of my favorite characters. I love how the characters in Final Fantasy IX actually have their job class and everything worked around their look. Like in the earlier Final Fantasies, you would actually pick your class, and then your character would kind of look like that accordingly, where you don't really pick your class in this game. Like a character is like a thief, Vivi's a black mage, Vivi looks like a black mage, and I like how they built a story around the characters being who they are. It was very interesting, and I feel like that trend of building the story around what the characters are kind of, I guess it started a little bit in around the Super Nintendo between 5 and 6, but I don't know, maybe even 4, or what some might consider 2. But I just love how dopey Vivi looks. I'm a fan of like underdogs, and Vivi's just your black mage that looks ironically. They always remind me of Jawas from Star Wars because of the glowing eyes and everything. One thing I feel like, and I might be wrong because, you know, when I was playing on PlayStation, it was super pixelated. Maybe the graphics would look really nice if they were smoothed out. But when I played it on PlayStation 2, like, they had that smoothing mode, and I don't think the textures were that detailed. But the main characters, like, it seems like their models and especially their textures have been updated where they look closer to the CG counterparts. Now, you're probably not going to be able to pick it up on this video, but the main characters kind of have like a grain texture, like overlapping their regular textures, and I think it's to fit with the lower resolution like backgrounds, because unfortunately with like if you have a remaster with pre-rendered backgrounds, unless you had like the original CGI data that like those backgrounds were taken from, like there's really nothing you can do except blow it up and smooth it out. So I think they gave the characters a grainy look to help them blend in a little bit more. It's kind of a shame a little bit, because like there's parts where there's full motion video where the camera like zooms in the parts of the pre-rendered background, like with the polygonal character, and on the PlayStation 1, especially playing on a CRT television, it looked seamless, where now the 3D characters like really stick out. That was like a really big issue. Like if you see like a older version of like the first Resident Evil and Resident Evil 2 like on the Dreamcast, or like the PC version, where like on the PlayStation, like the polygonal items that you would pick up, they would kind of blend in with the background. But with the higher resolution on the PC or the Dreamcast, I believe it even came out, at least part 2 and 3 came out on the GameCube, like they stick out like really easy, so you could tell like what you could interact with and really what you couldn't. But yeah, I really like this. I would really like to play 8 again. I've never been a terribly huge fan of 8. I know 8 has its fans. I had a friend that I let borrow 8, and I saw him get really far into the game, and some of the summons and everything that you do in 8 are so ridiculous, and it's amazing. Or at least at the time, it looked amazing. I like how they were pushing some of these special effects out of the PlayStation 1, and it was awesome. I just didn't really. I think it's called the junction system, where you actually had to like build your spells, and it seemed like even though you would grind in the game, like the enemies would level up with you, and you really had to use the stats of whatever, not the stats, the elements of like your magic and stuff against enemies, versus like how actually strong you were, which wasn't something I was really familiar with at the time, despite my unusually high knowledge of Pokemon at the time that I'm reluctant to admit, even though I just admitted it. Pokemon came out when I was in middle school, so yeah, Pokemon was out before this, so I knew a fair bit about Pokemon around this time. I think 8. I'm trying to think if I was in high school when 8 came out. I know 7 I was in middle school. 8 had to be late middle school or early high school. I'm thinking early high school. And then 9 was like kind of in the middle, like maybe, depending on where you are, there's 12 grades in primary school. So grade kindergarten, and if you start super early, there's junior kindergarten, there's 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th grade. Then you go to middle school, which is 6th, 7th, 8th grade, and then you go to high school, which is 9, 10, 11, 12. Some people would refer to it as freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, which is really odd to me. When I first started high school, people, instead of asking me what grade I was in, they would be like, "Are you a freshman, a sophomore?" And it kind of threw me off. But Final Fantasy 9, I believe, came out when the PlayStation 2 was out. This was, the PlayStation 1 was still going pretty strong when the PlayStation 2 was out. To be honest with you, when the PlayStation 2 first came out, it did not have the strongest library. The coolest thing about the PlayStation 2 when it was out was Zoa Enders, when you got that Zone of Enders, not Zoa of Enders. I think it's Zone of Enders. You think I would know, because that's like the first game I bought just so I could play the Metal Gear Solid 2 demo. Like, I worked a whole summer being severely underpaid for doing masonry work. I was a laborer, so it was just non-stop, and we'd get 5-minute breaks, and by the time I went to go eat my sandwich, no matter which is lunch, which I don't know, when I went to go eat lunch, no matter what kind of insulated lunchbox, I'd have like, it would be like 180, it'd be not 180, it'd be like 80 to 100 degrees outside, super humid. So like, no matter what I wanted, I'd have like a hot drink and a hot sandwich. And I'm pretty much a OCD germaphobe, so the fact that I was willing to drink out of a hose during that time because I was so thirsty probably says a lot about how miserable it was. So you're gonna see me like floating around in this game. Obviously I'm talking after I already recorded it. I was actually dreading to record this because this is gonna be a long ass video. Like, I don't even know who's gonna like sit through this whole damn thing. Not to discourage you or anything, like bravo if you have. Like, I'm making these videos even though I know like a lot of people aren't watching them. It kind of sucks because I'm trying to cater to people that want to watch my channel, but at the same time I have to keep in mind that I'm probably going to be mostly the one who watches my videos. So it helps for me to talk about my life, although there's like only so much in the game I can really talk about. Like, I mean, what can I possibly say about this game within like almost an hour's worth of time, honestly? And so when I talk about my life on my channel or stuff going on in my life, like it's cool when I go and look back. Unfortunately, like when the videos are like fairly new, they have like no nostalgic or sentimental value to me because I'm still going through the shit. Everything's like fairly recent and new in my head, but 2 years from now when I go and rewatch this, it's kind of crazy. It's like one of those videos you see sometimes when people like kind of interview their past selves, but I'm not really asking myself questions, but I'm like, oh yeah, I was in that headspace at that time. And it's pretty incredible because sometimes like your memories versus what you were actually feeling and what actually happened can be completely different. So you go back and you watch some of these old videos and it's kind of amazing. Like, you remembered it one way and then you watch this and you're like, no, it didn't happen that way, it happened this way. And it's pretty mind-blowing, especially when you've been doing this for like a few years. I think I really got involved in my channel around 2010. Like, I had some videos before then or whatever, but like when I really got into recording, like those are probably the most fascinating videos. It's quite unfortunate that I was kind of winging it at the time. I didn't have the best capture equipment or the best camcorder. Like, I really love Steve Benway's videos that he records with his camera still to this day. He always gets it right, but I never had a good camera back then to record it. And then the camera I had like didn't have like a microphone input, and the microphone that was built into it was like terrible, so it kind of sucks. I can barely hear myself. You'll see like a snatcher playthrough. Half of the playthrough doesn't even have commentary. I still am all over the place with my channel. I really wish Konami would like re-release that game, even if it was digitally. I hate relying on emulation. Like, I have the Sega CD2. Like, I have the game, but I have the Sega CD2, and I hate relying on like emulation through the PC just to play that game. I wish I could play it the way it was meant to be played, but this game is still, even though it's a little bit blurry, like if you think about PlayStation 1, it's quite impressive. Unfortunately, I can't really show you like the actual gameplay with the overworld and stuff like that. I used to always rename my characters when I used to play RPGs after like myself and everybody I know. And then I would hear other people talk about the game and certain characters, and they would call them by the names that the developers actually gave them, and I didn't know who the hell they were talking about half of the time. So now, as I've gotten older, mature, obviously wiser, I've kept the default names because I mean, how else are you gonna know like what merchandise to look up? Like I can't look up Mikey figurine, or like that kid that I knew in 3rd grade's name's figurine, and it be what I was thinking of. But yeah, the CGI actually holds up quite well, and I think part of the reason is because it's really stylized. Like, that's why I think Toy Story is kind of timeless, not only because of the concept. Toy Story 4 is coming out this summer. How crazy is that? Like, I'm excited for it, but I feel like everything in that universe that needed to be said was said by the time Toy Story 3 ended. Like, I feel like that was a nice trilogy. But, yeah, like, I would love to be pleasantly surprised, but I don't think I will be, but I want to be. Like, I'm not a terribly huge Pixar fan. Like, I thought I was at the time, but then I realized, like, the only movies out when I thought I was a fan at the time was, like, Toy Story and Finding Nemo, which I've kind of lost love for after time. Like, The Incredibles was alright. I never saw a good dinosaur. A Bug's Life was pretty forgettable. I was kind of bored with Wall-E. Up was pretty decent. I will give Up. But I don't know. I guess I'm a fan of Toy Story versus actual Pixar. But I'm having faith it'll be good. I never saw Monsters Incorporated in its sequel, which nobody ever talks about. Like, the new Kingdom Hearts, like, it's so alien to me because it's all these new franchises that, like, I have no love for. Like, I don't care about Pirates of the Caribbean or Caribbean, depending on who you ask. Like, I don't know how the franchise is pronounced, to be honest with you, because I've heard people say it both ways. And I'm not a fan of the series, so I don't know. Like, for all I know, like, they made it up to sound like the real thing. I saw the second film in the theaters with a friend. Sorry about that, the animal. There's no point to edit it because I can't find out where it was. The special effects in this game look really, really nice. Where was I? Oh yeah, they had Tangled, which my friend has like 2 kids now, which I never would have thought would happen, but that's a thing. And just because I just thought that he wouldn't be the type that would want kids, but now that he has kids, he's seeing like a lot of these Disney movies he wouldn't normally see, and he said Tangled was good, but I knew nothing about Tangled. Everything I know about Tangled was on Kingdom Hearts, and then there's Frozen, which I actually saw after I played Kingdom Hearts, which wasn't bad. You know, it looked like a 3D version of an animated Disney film, which I didn't think could be done. Although I will say, even though I'm not a fan of Snow White, I think my favorite classic Disney animated cartoon is probably Pinocchio. Snow White, I just can't stand it when those dwarves sing Whistle While You Work and all that shit, and then Snow White's like calling out all these rabid animals, like really creepy, like come out wherever you are. It's like, that's so that's so fucking creepy. Like, that witch is like the least creepy thing about that movie. But like the animation on those films, it's like rotoscope, like, and some of it, like, they actually filmed like actresses like reenacting things, like the fairy in Pinocchio, like, has this really ethereal look because they actually filmed the fairy. Like, please don't chew your bone while I'm recording. Animals always want to do stuff when I'm recording. Like, any other time, like, they're quiet and they don't want to play or anything, but I don't know. Maybe they think it's weird because I'm talking to myself. But yeah, sorry, I'm all over the place. But yeah, the fairy, that's really ethereal. Actually really like The Little Mermaid. I'm sorry, I hate to admit it, like, it's nostalgic. I would like to see Aladdin again. That live action one looks really weird. So is The Lion King. I don't like, and I tried watching the live action version of Beauty and the Beast because it was on Netflix, which I don't have much love for, the animated one, because it was kind of, I was at the age where I was getting out of Disney. I was kind of getting out of Disney with Aladdin and The Lion King, even though I think Beauty and the Beast came before, because that was the first one I think that had like CGI, and they made a whole big deal about it with the ballroom scene and everything. But like all the classic stuff in Kingdom Hearts, beside like their main characters like Disney and Donald, they're like all gone. But that's a really fun game, but it's like you either have to love Disney or love the Kingdom Hearts games, because it's a beautiful game, but it has PlayStation 2 gameplay, which is sad to say, but it's true. Like the lock-on system and the action, it's just so dated. It's fun, but like if you don't have like love for the series or love for those properties, like I've pretty much played most of the Kingdom Hearts games. Like I was really into the first one, not so much the second one, and then I played the spin-offs like when they came out on PlayStation 4. Not to that degree, mostly only the 1 and 2. A little bit of Dream Drop Distance, although that visited like a lot of the other places. So let's talk about the game a little bit. So this is a quick time event. Anyway, back to what I was saying. So yeah, I went with a friend with Pirates of the Caribbean. This is like really far back. It was the second movie. I don't even remember what it was called. That's how impressive it was to me. I mean, I thought like the underwater antagonist, I guess it was Davy Jones and his crew with the barnacles and everything, and the skeletons from the first movie looked kind of cool or whatever, but how much do you really expect from a movie based on a ride? Yeah, it ended on a cliffhanger, and I pretty much gave up on the series by then. I'm glad other people enjoy it. I'm sure there's a lot of movies that I like that other people aren't into, like Star Wars Episode 8. I'm so stoked about Star Wars Episode 9. But I was, before the trailer came out, like, I'm one of the few people that actually, I don't mind the movie being drastically different, and I don't mind that there's weird plot holes in it, because I mean, Empire Strikes Back is my favorite movie, and if like they were part of the Force and all this stuff, like, and George Lucas planned it out, like how did they not know that Luke, how did Leia and Luke know that they weren't related when they kissed each other? But we can just say it was just to make Han jealous. But like I wouldn't kiss my sister to make some other girl jealous. I'll tell you that that's weird. So I didn't mind it. I don't mind it being different, and I'm excited and sad at the same time because since my grandmother passed away, like, it's always been kind of a tradition to go to the movies around December, and besides Solo coming out a little bit early, I guess I only got to do it 2 times, but then to make up for Solo, I went to go see Spider-Man, which was like my favorite movie that came out last year. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, not Spider-Man Homecoming. Homecoming was okay. I'd say Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, Spider-Man 2, Homecoming, Spider-Man 3, The Amazing Spider-Man, and The Amazing Spider-Man 2 from best to worst. That's my list if you're curious. That's another movie that's coming out soon, is the new Spider-Man movie, Far From Home, which I'm kind of curious about that. I really need to go see Marvel's Avengers Endgame. I guess I'll see that hopefully tomorrow. I have a pretty busy week this week, so hopefully tomorrow I kind of prepare myself for the spoilers, just because I'm like kind of been an emotional wreck, so I didn't want to be upset when I went to the movie theaters, which sucks because it'd be nice to be surprised or whatever, and I'm scared I would go to the bathroom break and like maybe something important happens and I'll miss it. But yeah, it's kind of sad that's ending too, because I feel like after this movie I won't care about the Marvel Cinematic Universe for the most part. Like, I saw Captain Marvel. It wasn't bad. It wasn't what I would consider a great Marvel film compared to the best ones, but it was serviceable. I'd say it's around the quality of like Doctor Strange and from what I saw of Black Panther, but it's not fair to say that. I need to see that movie in its entirety. Maybe I'll have a different opinion about it if I see it more than 45 minutes. So it's not fair to compare that. I don't really care to see the first 2 Thor movies, even though people are mediocre on Ant-Man. I really enjoyed those. I really enjoyed Guardians of the Galaxy. Like, I'll go see the 3rd Guardians of the Galaxy movie for sure. Always been a Spidey fan, so I'll definitely watch those. But the other ones I don't really care about. Like Thor Ragnarok, like I didn't give a shit about Thor, but Ragnarok just looked cool because it looked like a fucking metal album cover, and it had like the synthesizer, like 80s music. I think the dude from Devo actually did the soundtrack of that movie, which is awesome. Steiner. Whenever I see his name, I just think of like a Stein, like a big freaking the huge mug of beer. Actually, Stein would be the one with the metal tip on it. I guess it depends who you ask. So I feel like somebody said, "Oh, they have Steins," and I'm thinking like you get like one of those elaborate Steins like people usually get as souvenirs when they go to Germany, with like the little metal lid that you can like open up with your thumb, and you can impress all your friends when they come over and say, "Hey, guess what?" They're like, "What?" And you're like, "Guess what?" They're like, "What?" Hey, guess what? What? And you're holding it like in front of them because you want them to say, "Oh, look." So you keep on like trying to build up time, like, "Hey, no, guess what?" They're like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" I was like, I went to Germany. I got this Stein. You want to touch it? So they're like, "No." Alright. The pizza should be here soon. Whatever. Let's Netflix and chill. So, yeah, so Steiner's running all around looking for Zidane, and I can't... Oh, Princess Garnet. Totally forgot. So I got like a Final Fantasy. I've been collecting them. There's one more that's coming out that'll cover 13, and I'm hoping a good chunk of it is mostly 13. and not Final Fantasy 14 and 15, which I don't really care about all that much. I know a lot of people feel kind of like averse to Final Fantasy 13, read a lot of nasty shit about it. I personally really like 13. I love Lightning as a character, like side VB. Cloud and maybe Terra from Final Fantasy 6. Like, Lightning is like my favorite character. Like, Lightning is kind of like a female version of Cloud, but I like how they made her more realistic. And I don't know, I just like apathetic protagonists that are like kind of done with everything, and Cloud was kind of like that too. But I don't know, Lightning, I guess because the technology was there, Lightning just looked like a badass. Like, Cloud looked pretty cool like in the pre-rendered movies, and then they had a Final Fantasy spin-off on PSP called Crisis Core, and then they had, that was like a prequel, and then they had the Dirge of Cerberus, where you played as Vincent, but like it would show scenes, and that took place after the movie Advent Children, and that was pretty cool. So to see Cloud then, he looked pretty cool, but they over stylized him. Like, the artist that does the artwork for those particular characters, especially with Cloud, they like overdo it with the belt buckles. Kingdom Hearts is pretty bad too. I think they chilled out a little bit for Final Fantasy 13, which is the one with Cloud in it. But yeah, I'm hoping like the new book comes out mostly as 13. Like the last one that came out, I'm glad that I got the actual, they actually had a separate art book for this back in the day, which is really weird to have an art book for video games that was actually localized. And they actually had one for Final Fantasy 9, so I'm glad I picked that up, because the Final Fantasy, the Volume 2 book that I got, covers the art of 7, 8, 9, which is the PlayStation 1 generation of Final Fantasy games. And I think it's, yeah, I don't think it goes to 10. I think it stops at 9. But most of the book is like Final Fantasy 7. It should just be called like Final Fantasy 7, and then in really, really small print, and other fine games, because they barely cover anything except Final Fantasy 7. Like, I hope they don't do that. I hope you really get to see some decent artwork from that. Like, I love it when they come out with localized art books so I can actually read the descriptions of what's in the pictures. Although, I will say sometimes, like, for instance, Persona 5's Japanese art book has, like, way more pages, and not because of the difference in print. They just have more art in them, but, you know, it's whatever. Beggars can't be choosers. I'm happy to get the descriptions in English, so I don't have to use my imagination and come out with some false interpretation of whatever that was meant to be. The cutscenes look really good. I'm actually watching this on the small editing window, so everything's compressed even more, so I don't see the artifacting that you're probably unfortunately going to see, but it does look good. I downloaded this game on PlayStation 3 to play because I wanted to be lazy and not have to use my desk. But because PlayStation 3, no matter what version you get, can still play PlayStation 1 games. But I got it so I could play it on the PSP actually, and I never really did. But I'm glad I got this version because I can look cool now. When people don't look at my trophies list, they won't see like all my Final Fantasy 9 trophies that I won, but hopefully they will, because I'd be like super proud. Like, I don't really care about trophies, but for some reason I get really excited about earning trophies for like older games that I enjoyed that I was particularly good at. Now, like, the ironic part about this, obviously when you watch this video it looks like I'm terrible at this game because I'm actually relearning it, because I haven't played this game hardcore, like since it was like fairly new, and it doesn't seem that long ago, but I mean, it's like 16, 17 years ago when this game was new. So it's a bit of time. Maybe that's, hopefully my crowd is fairly old, but maybe that's younger than some of you watching it. But notice, looking at the 3 views and noticing that like 2 of mine are probably checking to make sure that the resolution like finally upgraded to 1080p. Like, I'm not too worried about it. Although if kids watch Fortnite videos, I'm sure they're not terribly afraid of hearing the F-bomb. I think it's so creepy when older people stream Fortnite. More power to you if you do it, but like if you're like in your 20s and up, even late teens, I think it's so, like, I get it, that's where the money is, but you're mostly talking to people that are like 6 to 13 years old. It's really weird to me. And you have like these like older people that are probably out of touch, but they know how to play the game and they're pretty good at it, and like Ninja or whatever, they'll like dye their hair and try to look cool and relevant or whatever, but like they're way too old to be playing that game. Like, it was cool when it first came out, but like if that's your job, like you're really basically making a children's television show. But I mean, to each their own. My allergies are really bad, so if you hear me breathing heavy, that's why. It's not because I'm getting overworked on this video. I'm sure this microphone barely will pick up me and pick up all the background noise. Like, since they told me like younger wouldn't move in, but since we got younger people, it's like it feels like there's never any fucking quiet or privacy anymore. Like, there's just, and the windows, like the sound goes right through them. Like, it's just, you always feel like you're surrounded by people, and like me having really bad anxiety, it like super stresses me out. After I'm done making this video though, it'll be straight, because actually gonna go and hang out with my friend, which is kind of nice because we don't really get to hang out that much, so I'm trying to make an effort to do that more. It's hard, I guess, when you have kids or whatever. I don't know, it's what I imagine. It makes sense. But I love how like animated everything is. Like, it's quite impressive considering like the Saturn was pretty much crushing the PlayStation with like 2D games in it. Even though this has polygons in it, like the 2D animation's really impressive. Like the pre-rendered parts, like 2D. And I liked how Final Fantasy actually blended like full motion video, because on the PlayStation 1 at the time, and with a CRT television, it kind of blended things in a little bit more. Like, you started to notice the artifacting, especially when you upgraded to like S-video and you get flat screen TVs, and the higher definition things would go, the more pixelated everything looked. Also, I think when you start seeing better graphics, like you start seeing the flaws in lesser graphics. So yeah. So I've actually taken a break and came back. This video is so unnaturally long, I apologize. Special effects in this game are really good. Apparently the knight does not like frogs, so there's that. It's funny how a break makes me not able to think of anything interesting to say. Like, it's so much easier play and record, but then you're like distracted by the game and then you can't think about that. I actually had to use the I have the HD PVR rocket, which sounds like some sort of sex toy because rocket's at the end of it, but it's actually like one of those portable capture devices where you can use the thumbstick. If things start heading in a positive direction, which I hope they will, but wish in one hand and shit in the other and see which one gets filled up first. Even though nobody watches my channel, like, to me, I want the video quality as amazing as it could be. I want to upgrade my capture card because I'm not happy with the video quality. Even when I directly do it in the like PC mode, it's just not jiving with me a bit. The good ones are so expensive though. Like, get a decent one, I'd have to drop like $200. Not that the one that I bought was extraordinarily cheap. It was still like $150, which when you hold it, you definitely don't feel it. Like, my iPhone weighs more than my capture device. But I thought, like, if I directly record it from my PC, it would look super clear, but it's only a little bit better. This game looks okay because most of the scenes on it are pretty much 3D models on a static background, whereas like a quick moving 3D game such as like a first person shooter like Spider-Man, like any of those games, like when they look the worst because Spider-Man kind of swings like a pendulum, and like the artifacting actually like kind of goes in the direction that Spider-Man's going into, and it looks awful. And I just wish I could like show like how awesome those games looked. But until like I get like anything super positive going, like without getting into too much detail, like let's just have to do like nobody really watches. It's not like I'm making money off of this, so it's just like it's a hobby, so it doesn't have to be perfect. Now people are banging on the ceiling. If you wanted to know what that sound is, and then Friday they had parties. It's been awesome. Like, my nerves are shot. Like, I'm ready for something good to start happening, to be perfectly honest, because it's been rough. I'm kind of bummed this video's not as energetic as I would like it to be, but I've done so much. I can't turn back now. And there's a little bit of lag in between like what's actually shown on the screen and when I push the record button again, so I don't know. I can't win worth losing. Apparently the music, which I could barely hear, was, I guess, offensive in some way. Maybe the genre or whatever, I don't know. I mean, everybody's entitled to their own opinion, but it's just like, great, I fucked that up too. Because I finally got like a comment on it. I was excited, but you know, it's hard being I feel like even a lot of the people that claim to be small YouTubers like aren't that small. Like, they don't know what it's like to wait 2 weeks to get maybe 14 views on a video in a good day, and maybe get like one message. So it's difficult for sure. Like, to keep going, and you're doing it for yourself. But like I said, like, these videos don't really have like a huge sentimental value or meaning until like that time has passed. I'm trying to think of 2 years. Like, there's just so much going on, like, between the noise. My phone just went off. So you try to do it for the people, and you try to do it for yourself, and you try to find a good balance, and it's just really hard and discouraging a lot, because you think, like, this is it, this is gonna get people's attention, and it's not the same as this is gonna get the most views, this is gonna get me money, this is gonna get me YouTube famous. No, it's just like, when you're a really, really small YouTuber, it's like the attention you want, or like, if you get 2 or 3 comments and maybe a reply, like, that's a successful video. Like, some of these YouTubers that are still small YouTubers, they'll like cry like they're the little guy or whatever, but they definitely aren't. Like, if you get like 30 views within a 30-minute period, and like at least 3 comments between that time, like, you're doing all right. Like, I had some people back in the day that like apparently considered me a friend or whatever, but they would like expect me to watch their videos and comment on them on a timely manner, but like never support my channel in return, which is fine. I don't care. Like, if like a lot of my friends don't watch the channel, but don't expect me to do that with your channel. It's just ridiculous. Like, and those people weren't like that, because what happened is, at one point, like, I was getting a decent amount of views, like, I'd say maybe under a year when I first started. Not a whole bunch, but enough where like I was like replying to comments like for at least a week or so, like after I posted a video, or at least it felt that way. Maybe it was a lot less, but it felt like way more than now. And I had like more views than those people, and then as time went on and they got more famous, they started critiquing my video and telling me what's wrong with it or whatever, and get pissed off when I didn't watch their video in a timely manner or comment, and it was just draining. I'm so glad that that person decided to like quit talking to me, honestly. I know that's horrible, but like, just out of curiosity, I still like subscribe just because I'm curious like what they're doing or whatever. And it's just like, they're playing the victim all the time. Everybody's buying it, and it's like, oh, I'm such a small YouTuber, oh, I just care about the community, and it's just such bullshit. And it's just hurtful, because I know what that person did to me and other people, and I just hope that that person doesn't do it to other people again. But the odds are it'll happen. They're like upset about bigger YouTubers doing the same thing that they do to the people that they're bigger than, and it's just funny. And how they're talking about being honest when they're really not showing like the true colors. Like, even though I don't make money on this channel, and I just don't want to get flagged for like even repeating some of the shit that that person used to tell me in private, like, because it's so offensive and gnarly. Like, I don't get it. I mean, I get it, but I guess I don't want to. It's just some people are like, they're either shitty people or they're just blind to their ways, no matter what sense is like, or what evidence of how they're wrong is being presented to them. Some people just already have their minds made up, and you just have to accept them. You either accept those people for who they are, or you don't want them anymore in your life. But luckily, those people are so stubborn, they think of you as being the problem, so they typically will cut you off at some point, and you don't have to do any of the heavy lifting, and it works great. But it is kind of frustrating. I just hope that nobody like gets like feels like they have a legit friend and gets like hurt in the process and then has shit talked about behind their back or whatever, because I know if this person's capable of talking shit to me about other people, they're going to do it. They're gonna talk shit about me to other people. Did I say that right? Let me rephrase that. If somebody's willing to talk shit to me about other people, they're willing to talk to other people. They're willing to talk shit about me to other people. There we go. Michael, you should probably get some sleep. Yeah, that's a great idea. So this is Final Fantasy IX. I'm sorry this video wasn't mind-blowing, but overall, this is a great game. It's pretty much available on everything now. I think they just released it on the Xbox One and Switch. Thank you so much if you ended up watching this whole video of me rambling. But I hope you're all doing well. Thank you so much. I'll talk to you on the next video. Take care. Bye.
If you want to, like, comment, and subscribe! Thanks for watching!